What a kind introduction. I wish I could get that every time I go on stage.
Yeah, that was great. That was
Yeah.
really good.
Ansem, he mentioned that you have over 700,000 followers on Twitter. I'm sure a lot of people here probably know who you are. But to start off, this panel is about proof of brand. So I think, how did that happen? Why do you think people flock to you?
It actually was not intentional. I was not trying to get followers online. But I think the way that it happened, I was just sharing a lot of information that people related to. So I had like 3,000 followers in 2020, but I've been on crypto Twitter since like 2017. And I was always interacting with people, sharing charts, sharing ideas, going back and forth in the group chats with a ton of crypto heads. And then COVID happened, and I was sharing trades. I had another account that was my trade journal. I was posting all my trades there and then posting the bigger ones on my main account. And I did really well that cycle just with the public ideas that I was sharing, like Bitcoin, I think around 9K, 10K to like 50K. Solana was one of my big trades. I shared the entire like thread as I was trading it from like $1.50 up. And a lot of people were tailing the trades and they're like, who is this dude? And I started getting more followers, and that's how it really happened.
Any bad trades?
A ton of bad trades. A ton of bad trades. I mean, I also like while I was sharing ideas, I was still tweeting regularly because my Twitter account was never a crypto specific account. People asked me why my face is there, but it was my regular college Twitter, high school Twitter, like all my friends from before. And I was just tweeting regular stuff. I was still tweeting the same content. So when I would go out, I would tweet, I'm going out. It was like I'm the authentic person and the crypto stuff at the same time.
How would you define your brand and characterize kind of the image you've created within this space?
I think I come across as a degen, which I think is pretty accurate in trading and like also what I'm doing activity wise, which I think is like relatable to a lot of people in crypto. But I think there's a duality to it where you need to understand like the trenches, degen side of crypto, but you also need to have high level thoughts and ideas on what makes sense and how certain coins are different from others, like where some have fundamental value and some do not. And I think being able to combine both of those things is kind of how you do really well in crypto. It's like the attention economy is a thing, but then the tech side of crypto is also an important piece of it. So you need to be able to understand both.
Mm-hmm. There's two sides to you, right? Before we got on stage, we were talking about his name is Zion Thomas.
Yeah.
But he goes by Ansem, and I said, where did that name come from? If you want to tell the story.
Yeah.
It's a very heartfelt story.
Yes, I played a ton of video games as a kid growing up. I was a super nerd. I played like a ton of World of Warcraft, like all the MMORPGs, Diablo, EverQuest, like all those games. And one of my favorite games actually was Kingdom Hearts, the Square Enix game. And in Kingdom Hearts, like one of the main characters in the game, his name is Ansem. And Ansem there's two Ansems. There's Ansem the Wise, and then there's Ansem Seeker of Darkness, which is like the evil version of Ansem. So my name's Ansem because I share a lot of like informational content for people to learn about crypto, like get up to speed. If you're going 0 to 1 in crypto, a lot of people use my account to get information there and like sharing trade ideas, like macro stuff, all of that. But then there's also like the Ansem, which is going out and partying with people and traveling and doing all that. So those tweets are also on the account. So it's like both.
The degen Ansem.
Yeah.
Yeah. Would you ever change your name?
I don't think so.
There's not a third Ansem?
No.
Fourth Ansem.
No, third or fourth Ansem, no. Yeah.
Okay. Taking a step back from Ansem, I want you to kind of tell us more about how you look at the broader CT, crypto, Twitter landscape and the brands that are out there today. What do you think makes someone's brand valuable?
Yeah, it's been cool to see crypto Twitter evolve from 2017 to now. I think one of the coolest things about crypto is you don't need a degree in anything or like background knowledge in any specific field to get good at crypto and to understand crypto. So it's very easy to learn or it's self-taught. It's very easy to teach yourself crypto. And crypto Twitter plays a huge role in that because a lot of the figures that are there and prominent on crypto Twitter are the people who've either done well in the space or founders, and are very accessible even to people who are completely new to the space, and that's really cool. So when I joined in 2017, I learned how to trade and learned about crypto from all the like bigger accounts who were on CT, and I always thought that was like really important to me and beneficial to me. So I always feel like I kind of have a responsibility to do similar for the newer generations. As far as like what the current brands are on CT now and like why they're valuable, I would say authenticity is the biggest thing. People can see through when you're like faking an account or faking what you want your personality or brand to be. And I think it's not relatable to people when they can see that you're doing that. So being authentic with your brand, whether it's like you're representing a blockchain or representing yourself or representing your company, it should have its own personal, flair to it.
When you bring up authenticity, I think of a lot of people say they want to be like X, Y, Z, and you could think of a handful of names in the space that are extremely prominent. But then I also have noticed that even with those prominent people, I'm not going to name names, but they're not always like in the best public eye, right? So then there's the other side of it where it's like, okay, I want to be like insert name, and you guys are all probably thinking of one, and that's for you to think about, do your own homework. But then on the other side, like there's the reality that like, oh, this person's like gone off the deep end, or oh, this person's like acting out really crazily, or oh, they said something that was really irresponsible, they deleted the tweet, whatever it may be, which is a long-winded way of me asking you, what do you think hurts someone's brand?
A ton of things can hurt your brand. What would I say hurts your brand?
What has hurt yours? That's a tough question.
Yeah, I could talk about that.
Yeah.
I would say I've definitely partnered with, some teams that like could people like see has hurt my brand. The thing is when your account blows up and when you get a lot of followers, a lot of people aren't or can't experience what that is like and when it happens, but you're gonna get a ton of outreach from some companies, from like teams, from all these different people want to offer you things and partner with you and give you this and give you that for exchange for like marketing or all these other things. And most of the time, it's better to choose like a few really good ones instead of like taking a lot of them. So I'll say one way that people hurt their brand is by like taking every offer that they get to partner with people or every angel investment that they get and not being diligent with like who you're partnering with, because what can hurt your brand is if people see you're attached to someone else and they're doing something negatively and then they draw that back to you because you talked about them or you said something positive about them. Like and it gets even more difficult when they can be like your friends or people that you know and they're launching projects or doing their own thing and you want to help them out, but sometimes you like have a responsibility to be distance in a way because I can't control what other people do.
You can't help all your friends.
Yeah, unfortunately. And I have a lot of friends, but
Yeah.
yeah.
That kind of reminded me of the term KOL, key opinion leaders, which I'm not a big fan of that term. I think it has warranted some unsavory behavior within the space, kind of to the point that you just talked about.
Yeah.
How do you think the role of those KOLs, or if that term will even exist, play a factor in this space going forward?
There's definitely a lot of negative aspects to it. I would say crypto is kind of going through a maturation phase right now, honestly. But the reason that KOLs have so much impact on crypto markets is because for a lot of teams in crypto, the coin is the product, not like what the company is actually building or like revenue or anything like that. And when the coin is the product, it trades very heavily off of attention. And KOLs, which have a lot of followers or a lot of pull, they are big, very impactful on how much attention certain things get. So I would say it's negative because you can have these people who are getting paid on the side and not telling what not telling people that they're getting paid and shilling stuff, and then obviously selling as they're shilling, which is you should not do. It's illegal. But I would say that there also is a role for people who are good voices and have impact and have influence to kind of shape the reputation of crypto and what it looks like. So when there's people who don't know anything about crypto, I don't like the word KOLs, but these influential people in this space can have a really outsized impact on those new people joining the space and like what advice they're going to get and what they should do. Because if there aren't people with good intentions in those roles, and there's people with bad intentions there, when there's new people who don't know anything about crypto and they try and join the space, they're going to get bad advice. And that's going to negatively impact the space even more. So you do need people like that. I don't know if KOL is the right word, but
What would you call them?
It's a great question.
People?
We should come up with
Smart
that.
people?
Smart people, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, smart, influential people.
Yeah, smart people, SPs.
SPs.
Yeah, instead of LPs, we got SPs. Looking at Solana, obviously we're at Solana Crossroads. How do you think the current state of the market is panning out? Is it as you expected, maybe 3-6 months ago?
I expected it to be a lot more bullish this year, honestly. I thought that Trump presidency and like the shift from a very negative admin on crypto regulation to a positive one with like also the Bitcoin Strategic Reserve and all of those things that they talked about during their campaign. I honestly thought it was going to be a lot more bullish for crypto than it has been. And I think the expectations were just too high going into January. And then also we got the tariff stuff happen and a lot of macro economy stuff has impacted crypto in a way because we're tied to all of that now, like a lot. As crypto matures, we're going to be a lot more tied to stocks and macro. I would say right now it's not, unclear to me in the short term what everything looks like, but on the medium and long term, I don't think it's ever been as bullish as it currently is for crypto and building in crypto. I think the shift is very apparent regulation-wise, and then just like attention and the amount of smart people looking into this space now, I think is markedly different than it has been previous cycles. So, yeah, but there's a lot of stuff going on right now that impacts markets. So,
Right.
yeah.
So you still think we're in a bull market?
How do we define a bull market?
You what?
How do we define a bull market? I don't know.
How do you define a bull market? You've been in this space for a while.
I wouldn't call it a bull market right now. No, I would call it a
wouldn't?
bull market for Bitcoin. I wouldn't call it a bull market for altcoins.
But you think it'll come back,
Yeah, for sure.
like soon?
I don't know about soon. Maybe I'm thinking like I'm bullish on a 6-month out time frame. I'll say, but it's also dependent on a lot of things can happen that could shift my opinion on that pretty quickly. So, but yeah.
That's all right. Fair enough. You also co-founded Bullpen, which is, as they mentioned, a social trading app focused on, quote, making trading multiplayer. And it uses catching Solana tokens before they get popular, correct?
Yep.
With the current meme coin landscape, or perhaps like the death of it at the moment, how does Bullpen want to revive that mania, that meme coin mania, and play a role in that?
Yeah, at Bullpen, we want to make it easy for anybody to trade the most popular things in crypto, whether that's like social, or that's like meme coins on Solana, altcoins on Solana, perps trading. We actually just enabled perps trading on Hyperliquid as well. But really, our focus is making it easier for people to discover what's popular, whether it be through like groups or from calls from other people or like interacting with their friends, and also having the interface allow people to do that very quickly. So I think crypto is cool because it's a very social game. I think of crypto kind of like as its own MMO RPG. It's like its own game. And the discovery aspect of finding out what's popular and doing research is a big part of that. So if you're able to tap that social layer in the right way, it can be really beneficial for new traders specifically.
Yeah, I think in some ways, like branding and virality falls into a token's popularity, and obviously the name meme coin falls into that category too. When you're kind of assessing what to buy or even in like Bullpen's case, like what makes a token popular enough to be presented on the platform, right? Like what makes a good token, essentially?
Um, I would say there's two types of tokens in crypto. There are tokens that trade purely on attention, and those are meme coins. And finding out which good meme coins are is really an attention game, figuring out like how viral something is going to go, how relatable it is to people external to crypto, and like the specific meme and how good of a meme it is, like how funny you think it is. But for meme coins specifically, what's really important early on is like the supply concentration. So if you have good distribution among a lot of people that are all like cult-like formation and invested in getting as much attention on it as possible, that's good for the coin early. But if you have concentrated supply in like one or two groups of people, it's obviously net negative. You're never gonna like get past a very high ceiling. And the other kinds of tokens in crypto are ones that trade off of like their technical fundamentals. And that's stuff like Solana, apps that are like really making their own revenue, like Hyperliquid. And that's more of a thesis around like the fundamental aspects of the coin, how it compares to its competitors, place in the market, how they're building, how they're shipping. And then like the attention is just like a supercharger for those coins. Yeah, it's two different like markets really.
Yeah, in terms of these altcoins or like L1s, L2s, utility tokens, as I call them, where they actually have like a blockchain behind them, perhaps, not just like a meme or something. Yeah. A network could be like constantly shipping, as you just said, and doing all these updates and everything, but maybe the price still doesn't rise, right? So like what makes a good token to you? And then on the other side, it's what makes these utility tokens actually successful, especially in this cycle, because I feel like, it's not the same as last cycle.
Yeah, I'll say Solana is a really good example of this, as in late 2021 and 2022, Solana had a ton of problems with congestion, like spam on the network. And they actually had to implement a ton of specific network changes in 2022 to make it more usable for people and like improve the UX. So the best trades in crypto typically come when there is a gap in knowledge between the perceived fundamental value or fundamental like technical value of some of these coins and what it actually is, and then the market realizing that and then that like betting on the attention shifting in that direction. For Solana specifically, it was like even in 2023, a lot of people were writing it off as dead because they hadn't done their research on knowing that what had actually happened behind the scenes for the builders on the chain, and not doing their research with like all the other teams on Solana building. But the shift really happened when like I think Bonk started blowing up. And I think it's kind of underappreciated how much that the social layer like of meme coins and how much that impacted Solana this cycle. Like if there was not that DEX activity going on, even when Solana started to break out, I think above like 25 or 30, if there was no DEX activity there, then I think a lot of the attention that's on Solana now this cycle would not be there. So it's a combination of things for sure, but you definitely need something to get traders and retail interested outside of just like the actual blockchain and how it functions.
Any thoughts on Ethereum by comparison? Like Solana goes up, Ethereum goes down.
I feel like I've said so many negative things about Ethereum. I don't want to say too many more negative things about Ethereum. Ethereum was in a difficult spot this cycle because when pivoting their roadmap from being like all execution on the L1, all center on the L1, everything on the L1, to the roll-up centric roadmap, well, you now have a fragmentation of attention across all these different roll-ups, and for the same amount of activity on the L1 to contribute the same amount of like fees, and I think REV is the word, to the L1, you need a ton more activity on these rollups just because of how much cheaper it is to post all these transactions back to the L1. And I think the fragmentation there, now you have like ETH competing with other DA layers, and ETH competing with other settlement layers, and all these rollups are focused on making things as cheap as possible for their users, but that doesn't really benefit ETH as an L1. So it's just difficult for them to compete with Solana when you can do all the things that they're trying to do with multiple different rollups on one L1. But I don't think ETH is going to die. I think the roadmap makes sense. It's just they're in a transition period right now where you're going to need proof of concept of these rollups doing better than they need to have better performance than Solana currently does. And a lot of these rollups currently don't have that. So we'll see, like with Mega ETH and a few other these rollups come out, what happens there. But you need that it to happen in prod first, I would say.
Do you think there's ever such thing as too many tokens, or like meme coins, there's content coins, there's altcoins, there's shit coins? You tweeted there's house coins. I don't even know what that is. I don't even know if that was serious, but is there ever a line that's going to be crossed where you're like, it's disgusting, there's too many tokens, or like that's just the product of the market?
No, I mean, I don't think you really can control it. These are permissionless systems, and people are going to deploy as many coins as they want to. I think trying to inhibit that would be...
I guess the appetite for it is more.
I would say that you can't stop it. It's going to continue to happen, but the market will price these things. The market will price these things effectively. So if there's too many tokens in the market, you're going to see that fragmentation affect the prices of all the different tokens. And I think you saw it with like a lot of the different rollups. Like there's a lot of the L2, like the tokens for the L2s are down a lot. Because it's like now there's a lot more tokens for people to choose from if they want to bet on ETH doing well. Yes, I would say the market is always the best decider of what is if there's too many tokens, the market will tell you like, okay, there's too many tokens.
Fair enough. How do you see the crypto trading landscape evolving in the near term?
In the near term, I do think that the terminals and the bots actually do have a big advantage for users, especially when you're trying to be the fastest and earliest with a lot of these coins, which is what people are trying to do. I think those are going to continue to be popular. Also terminals like in silico, which is like more so for like large size trading on either centralized exchanges or on stuff like Hyperliquid. They do a really good job of giving users privacy in what they're trading and getting them better like flow. But yeah, I would say I think it's going to continue to be like made as easy as possible for people to trade instead of like having to go direct to these apps.
And for Bullpen, I know it says it aims to help users stay ahead of the market. How do you think your skill sets of finding these good market trends and assets and all these other things and your own personal brand, name of the panel, tie into this?
Yeah, I think I understand the social layer of crypto really well, like and how attention moves throughout the market. So that like impacts a lot of the decisions we make with like what a user wants to see, how they want to discover coins, like how people trade in groups. I think is really cool. One of the biggest, one of the things that helped people a lot this cycle that I did was this like Solana Manlets Telegram. Which is like I think it's like 20-some thousand people in there now, but that was back when Solana was like just starting to become kind of consensus. It was late 2023, I want to say, and there was a Telegram I made that had all these different channels in it, but it was basically people all discussing coins, like what's trading, what they're looking at, like all that going on chain, and it was kind of like a hive mind of people all in the same place, kind of similar to like the like Reddit when during COVID when stocks were going crazy. All the people were having discussions about their trade ideas and all that. So it's kind of like that, but specifically for Solana and specifically for crypto. And it really helped people who didn't have the time to be on like Twitter all day. They kind of had these groups of people where they would get pinged by who were they deemed important or was doing good research. So you knew kind of what to look for and when to look for it. I think having like dedicated group of people instead of just trading on your own is really important in crypto, especially because it's just daunting as an outsider trying to get up to speed on all the information. So that helps people a lot. But it informs, I'll say it informs generally how I think about things at Bullpen.
I also remember during probably the last 12 months or so, like a lot of people flocked to you for, I guess, market predictions maybe on Solana, dog with hat, other categories like that. Do you ever feel like a weird responsibility or like you're kind of like the leader of the pack?
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah, sometimes for
How
sure.
do you manage that?
I would say I try to be as transparent as possible with how I'm thinking about things, and like if my opinion changes on like positions that I have or like coins that I'm holding, I try and be transparent in that way. Like Solana, I was super bullish on from like 2023 on, and it was like around $15, $20. I was trading there for a long time, and I was basically hammering it super hard that like if crypto ever comes back, I think Solana is going to be one of the coins that does really well, and it did end up doing well. But like a lot of the price targets I had for Solana was either like $1,000 or like what did I say, like 0.1 on the Sol ETH pair, and I had those targets basically throughout the entire cycle, entire 2024. But I ended up selling before that. So like when I pivoted to being bearish on Sol, I think it was around like 260 or whatever. Was when I sold like a lot of it.
The top?
Yeah, pretty close to the top. I got pretty lucky. But there were a lot of people who were mad. Like, you said it was gonna go to 1,000 and it's not at 1,000. Why are you selling? But the thing with trading is you have to be able to flip-flop your bias really quickly depending on new information that you get. And I think a lot of people who aren't professional traders, who don't do this full time, that's kind of foreign to them. So they say like, oh, but you said this before, and now it's only 4 hours later, and now you're saying this. But my position could be different than it was 4 hours before. So that's the hardest thing with sharing ideas in public, is like you're always gonna have people who are like thinking you're misleading them or like trying to scam them when like your position just can change so frequently. I'll say that's the hardest thing.
There's also, I've got to ask you this, the dog with hat sphere. Where is it?
Not on the sphere.
We're not getting the sphere?
No, we refunded or have been refunding people. So yeah.
People are getting refunded?
Yeah.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
So it's not happening?
No.
Damn. Rest in peace, dog with hat.
Oh man.
Okay, to wrap things up, Ansem, what would you like to be known for? We talked with, like, in the beginning, what your brand is and how you characterize yourself, but
Yeah.
maybe looking back when you're older, after all this, like, crazy crypto waves have happened, how would you like to be remembered in this space?
That's a great question. I think what I want to be known for is I think crypto is going to impact the world in a really meaningful way. And there's going to be a period where I think people who currently aren't on chain end up doing a lot more of their daily activities on chain. Whether they're aware of that or not, I think is kind of the job of the builders in crypto. But I want to be one of the people who kind of was part of that transitional period for all these new people joining crypto. So that's what I want to be kind of, I guess, remembered or recognized for, is like one of the people who had a good voice in crypto and generally good impact on what the space looks like and what it is perceived as, and then just like helping onboard people.
And lastly, can you leave the audience with a piece of advice, something that you've carried with you throughout your time in this space?
Piece of advice, I would say, regardless of if market is up or down, to never stop doing research on like what's new in crypto. All the best trades that I've had in crypto are from ideas that were not consensus at the time, but ended up being right later on. So if you're able to find these non-consensus trades early, that's how you make a ton of money in crypto. It's also where you're going to build in crypto. you're able to find which direction you should be focusing on. So I'll say never stop researching and work in groups.
Amazing. Ansem, thank you so much. And thank you to everyone else for listening in.
Oh, thank you.
Cheers. Thank you.